1989, you finished third in the Brownlow behind Paul Couch. Round 19 of that particular year, you had 53 possessions, kicked 6 goals against the Saints. But 1993, and I know it's brought up on numerous occasions, round 10 against Melbourne, the 44 disposals and you kicked a goal, 0 Brownlow votes. I know it's hard to say this, but you actually could have become a 4-time Brownlow medalist.
Yeah. No, look, I'm really happy with 2. I think the umpire actually cheated that day against Melbourne and didn't vote for me, unfortunately. But that's just the way it goes. I do a few things with Chris Judd, a few talks and things. I always say to Judd, how do you reckon you would have went if you ran like me? And he would, how many Brownlows you reckon you would have won? And he said none. And I just say, well, how do you reckon I would have won if I had been able to run like him? Well, I would have won about 7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Confident prediction. Greg, is there any truth in the reputation that did you talk back to umpires? Do you think that might have been part of your problem?
I had a serious run-in with that Russo, the guy who cheated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. But that day I didn't. I honestly, when you get 44, Troy would know this, when you get 44 possessions, it's hard to argue with anyone. You're pretty busy.
Yeah.
And, I just didn't have an issue that day, but he did. And he was vindictive, and unfortunately that's the way it goes.
It must take a while to arrive at that point, though, given somebody with your level of perfectionism. And there'd be other players who might not be able to let that go. But as you say...
I haven't let it go.
No, he hasn't let it go, Tony.
Oh, okay.
I definitely haven't let it go. But,
okay.
That's what happened. And I know a lot of players haven't won a Brownlow that probably should have or could have because they played well. But I actually was best on ground by a long way in every paper, everything. And he just deliberately... And I was spoken to the other umpire who was there.
Yeah. Was it Murray Bird, Diesel?
Yeah, he actually got me one day at the Brownlow, won Brownlow after it, 10 years later. And he just said to me, I want to apologise for what happened and I should have been stronger. I should have made him vote for you and stuff like that. So there's no doubt on what happened. And, that's just not good.
Yeah, well, it should be... I don't know. Let's not get into talk about asterisks, but I'm very keen to know this. I saw in the chat you did with Sam Pang, who is, as we know, a great man and a great Carlton supporter. You mentioned that you had a grandfather, I think, Diesel, who was a fighter pilot in World War I. Is that where you got your incredible peripheral vision and reflexes from, do you think?
Actually, my middle name's Donald, and his name was Donald as well. So
yeah,
Greg Donald Williams. But he was a great pilot, and unfortunately got shot down. But look, I think I knew I had special talent in that regard. I actually knew that I had a talent and could see things that other players couldn't see. And it gave me great confidence. But my issue was my athleticism, which I had bugger all of it. In regards to so many players, I was probably the slowest player at all the clubs I were at, and but to be able to get the ball as much as me and do things with it, and with the athleticism I didn't have, I think there's a special determination and just so much talent in other areas rather than my hands. Were fast, but my feet weren't. And I just did the best with what I was given. And I'm proud of what I've done. I am, and I don't mind telling people about it. But as I said, you get knocked down. I got knocked down a lot, and just get up and keep going. And I was able to put in 250 good games, or really good games.
Really good games. 96, 97, Diesel, the last 2 years of your career, you played 18 and 13 games in those 2 years. The final 4 games of your career, mate, these are incredible stats, and this will put a smile on your dial. Last 4 games of your career, 31, 27, 32, and 28.
Wow.
Like, they're elite midfielder numbers in the absolute primes of their careers.
Yeah, I was tiring because of my knee. I really did have a knee that was right now. There was stuffed. There was just no cartilage, and I put up with it. And that was the great thing about '94, because I didn't do a pre-season really. I just did a limited swimming and bike, and if you think back then, everything was about Hafey and Walls and all those guys, and even Parkin was bloody hard. And so guys just come in, but I did a season where no one had trained less than me, and I still was able to win the Brownlow in '94. But yeah, those '93, I was getting my knee drained at half time because of the issues I had with it. I had 10 arthroscopes on it.
10 arthroscopes?
Yeah, I did over my career, but yeah, that really limited me as well. Like, I'm not trying to say I could have played better, but I could have if I hadn't have had that last 6 years or so of my, degenerative knee. Yeah. So
I want to ask you, Troy, 10 arthroscopes, is that yet another statistic where Greg Williams leads the field?
I tell you what, that nearly rivals his 53 possessions in round 1989 as a stat. 10 arthroscopes.
Yeah, that's right.
That's one I didn't know, Tone.
No,
I've had a new drug as well on my knee. Not just me, but a few blokes have, and it's going well. Really has helped a lot. Paradigm, the drug's called Penazan. It's a trial drug, and Andrew Walker and a fair few AFL players have had it. And it's just taking the pain right away, and it's just, for arthritis, it's unreal.
Can I just on that, Diesel, if I can? It's players who played at your level. It's left a very heavy physical toll on you and other players of your generation. What are your thoughts on that, and how the AFL has managed that?
I think there's a lot of stuff, concussion and the CTE and things like that. I've been pretty well in front of that.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there's more. Polly Farmer just came out after he died that he'd had it badly, things like that. So that's pretty sad. But I think the AFL have done a lot of things to rear their head. But, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot more players coming. And if they do get their brain checked, well, I think there's going to be a lot more who've got CTE,
Yeah,
it's an incredible effort, Greg, in all sincerity, mate, that you got to 250 with all the injury, those 10 arthroscopes, that's extraordinary. And all the problems that you had, the various problems, you've got to be so proud of yourself, mate, to knock up 250 games at the absolute highest level.
Yeah, no, I'm wrapped. I was. And it was, like I said, 95 was really capped off a great season for Carlton and premiership. But it really was a big thing for me to have that. It would have been a bit of a big hole if there was no premiership over that time. But we were lucky enough we got one, and we still celebrate it every year. Golf trip and all the players. So it's good fun.
Well, you can add to that the list of, credits being the first ever guest on More Than the Score. Troy, I'm sure you've got one more question for Diesel before we let him go.
No, I just admire Diesel's humility. That's the thing that I've got out of this interview.
All right, leaving with a clip. Thank you, Diesel. Thank you so much for joining us on More Than the Score. It's been a great chat, and as a Carlton supporter, I've got to say you are in my top 3 favourite players. Not the favourite player, but you're in the top 3.
Hey, you're a pretty good judge, Tony. You're a pretty good judge.
Good. Thanks, Diesel. Really appreciate it.
No worries.
Thanks, Greg.
Troy, what'd you make of that?
Tony, well, I tell you what, we've kicked it off in fine style with our first guest, Gregory Donald Williams, the Diesel, dual Brownlow medalist, if you don't mind. And look at the smile on your face, Tone. You are just like a Cheshire cat.
It is just, you've got to understand how big the 95 premiership year looms in the Carlton imagination. I can still remember my brother, who is a statistician of note, my brother Pete, and
Yeah.
a fanatical Carlton supporter. He put down the paper and he turned to me with this grin. And it's a particular grin that Pete has when he's really excited about something.
Yeah.
And Diesel's coming to Carlton. And that was, it was like literally the second coming. And, from that point on, all things were possible. And so I've always regarded him in that kind of, he's always been a really elevated figure to me. So to actually meet him and find out that he's absolutely, a brilliant person to talk to, as well as being a great player. And he was just so great to watch. You're always in safe hands with Diesel. So it was wonderful.
Well, I'm glad you got a lot out of it, Tone, being an absolutely fanatical Carlton supporter. And Greg, look, I've got to say, I've known Greg for a little while now through my brother Shane. Obviously, They crossed paths when they played in the 80s. So he's a cracking guy, great sense of humour, as dry as a martini. And he's just really good company. And he tells it how it is, Tone.
Yeah.
There's no sugarcoating it with the Diesel. He's straight up.
No, and I think you would have admired your brother, and they would have been like-minded spirits in their ability to give robust feedback, sometimes unsolicited.
Robust feedback. I love it. It's code for talking no. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're spot on, Tone.
Troy, we've had a bit of a 2-week break, but we're back now. And how? We'll be back next week with More Than the Score, featuring the great man, Troy Zantuck, and myself, Tony Moclair, here on Isolation TV.